It started with a silence that spoke louder than any word. A silence between two people who once shared laughter, dreams, and moments so intense that the world seemed to stop around them. Yaman, the man who built his career on strength, charm, and confidence, suddenly looked fragile in front of the cameras. His voice trembled slightly as he spoke, and everyone watching could feel it. There was no performance this time. No acting. Only truth. And the truth was called Demet Özdemir. For years, fans had speculated, whispered, and debated whether the love between Can and Demet was real or just another spark born on set. They had seen the chemistry, the glances that lingered too long, the smiles that looked too genuine to be scripted. But tonight, as Can finally opened his heart, there was no doubt left. "Demet," he began, his eyes glistening under the studio lights, "you're the missing piece of my soul." The audience went silent. No one dared to breathe. Even the interviewer seemed frozen, unsure whether to ask another question or simply let the silence tell the story. Ken took a deep breath, trying to hold back emotions that had clearly been waiting years to escape. "We met when neither of us was ready for what we found," he continued. "We were two strong people trying to protect ourselves, trying to survive the spotlight, the rumors, the expectations. But somewhere along the way, I lost sight of what really mattered. I thought I could move on. I thought time would heal it. But it didn't." His words cracked, his voice faltered, and suddenly, the tough actor millions admired looked like a man carrying the weight of 1,000 unsaid words. Demet's name echoed across social media instantly. Within minutes, fans flooded timelines with clips, edits, and emotional messages. "He still loves her," some wrote. "She was always the one," others commented. The video spread like wildfire, not because of fame or gossip, but because everyone recognized something deeply human: regret. The kind of regret that doesn't fade with time, the kind that reminds you every day that you lost something irreplaceable. Behind the scenes, those close to Ken said he had been distant lately, thoughtful, quieter than usual. His friends had noticed how often he looked at old photos or how he would stop scrolling when a picture of Demet appeared on his feed. They said he wasn't the same, not the fiery, unstoppable Ken they once knew. "It's like he's searching for something," one insider revealed, "but deep down, he already knows what it is." And tonight, as the cameras captured every tear, every pause, and every glance toward the floor, that search came to an end. Ken didn't have to say more. His words had already reached the one person they were meant for. Somewhere out there, Demet was watching. And for a brief moment, the distance between them, the years of silence, the pain, the misunderstandings, seemed to dissolve in the air. The night after Can's confession, social media was chaos. Thousands of fans posted old clips of her Kenzie cuss, rewatching every glance, every smile, as if trying to find clues hidden in the past. "He's talking about that scene," someone wrote under a video where Can and Demet had looked at each other a heartbeat too long. People remembered. They remembered the spark that no script could fake, the chemistry that made them believe in love again. And now, years later, the actor himself had admitted what so many already felt, that the story between them had never truly ended. Meanwhile, Demet stayed silent. No statement, no reaction. Just one photo, a quiet picture of the sea, posted to her Instagram story. No caption, no song, just waves meeting the shore. But to those who knew her, it was enough. It wasn't random. It was memory. That sea had witnessed their first trip together during filming. That was where they had escaped the cameras, even for a few hours, talking about dreams, fears, and everything in between. Inside the industry, people began whispering. Demet saw the interview, one insider revealed. She watched it in silence, and she cried. Others close to her said she had always avoided talking about Ken publicly because she knew any word could reignite old fires. But this time, his words broke through the walls she had carefully built around herself. "He still has a place in her heart," another source added quietly. The next morning, Ken was spotted leaving his apartment early, wearing sunglasses to hide eyes that looked tired, or maybe swollen from a night with little sleep. Cameras followed him, shouting questions. Have you spoken to Demet? Do you regret what happened between you? He didn't answer, but the slight tremor in his jaw said more than words ever could. He just whispered to a friend beside him, some truths come too late. On talk shows across Italy and Turkey, hosts replayed the clip over and over. Analysts, fans, and even relationship experts tried to interpret every word, every pause. This is not a PR stunt, one journalist said firmly. This is a man confessing something real. And as the world debated, the internet exploded with one single question: would Demet respond? For the first time in years, both of their names trended together. Their faces appeared side by side in every headline, not as co-stars, but as two hearts caught in the same story again. And deep down, everyone wanted the same ending: reconciliation. But Ken knew it wouldn't be easy. Too many things had been said, too many choices made in anger and pride. Still, as he sat alone that night, scrolling through memories on his phone, he stopped at one photo: Demet laughing, her hair blowing in the wind, eyes sparkling like sunlight. He whispered to himself, if I could go back, I'd never let her walk away. And in that quiet moment, the truth was undeniable: fame had given him everything. Money, recognition, success, but taken the one thing he truly wanted. That evening, Demet sat in her apartment in Istanbul, lights dimmed, phone buzzing non-stop. Friends, fans, even producers sent her the same clip, Can's confession. She watched it once, twice, then again, unable to move her eyes away from the screen. His voice, the tone, the tremor, it all felt too real, too familiar. It was as if time had folded in on itself, pulling her back to the days when they were inseparable, when laughter filled every corner of the set, when a simple glance between them meant everything. She turned off her phone and walked to the balcony. The cold night air brushed her face, and memories came rushing back: the smell of his cologne, the sound of his laugh, the way he would look at her like she was the only person in the world. For years she had buried those feelings beneath work, travel, and distance. But now, with a few honest words, he had unearthed them all. Demet, you're the missing piece of my soul, she whispered to herself, repeating his words, as if trying to believe they were real. Her eyes filled with tears. She remembered the night they had argued, the one that ended everything. It wasn't about jealousy or fame. It was about fear. Fear of losing themselves in a love too strong for the world around them. She had walked away that night, thinking she was protecting them both. But now she wondered if she had only protected her pride. Inside her heart, a storm raged. Part of her wanted to call him, to tell him she had seen it, to say that she had never stopped caring. But another part, the one shaped by pain and disappointment, told her to stay silent. Because love alone wasn't enough back then. And maybe it still wasn't now. Meanwhile, outside her home, photographers waited. They were hungry for any sign, a glance, a comment, a reaction. They didn't know that inside those walls, a woman sat trembling between past and present, unsure which one hurt more. Later that night, Demet found herself opening an old box. Inside were letters, small notes they had exchanged during filming, little inside jokes only they understood. One of them read, "If one day we get lost, look for me in the silence." She smiled through tears. How ironic, she thought, because it was silence that had separated them all these years. Her phone vibrated again. A message. Not from him, but from a mutual friend. He meant every word. She stared at the screen, heart pounding. For a moment, her thumb hovered over Can's name in her contacts list. But she didn't press call. Not yet. She just placed the phone on the table, took a deep breath, and whispered, "If he really meant it, he'll find me." And miles away in Rome, Ken sat alone with his phone too, staring at her name glowing on the screen, afraid to press the same button. Two hearts, one message left unsent. The next morning, headlines screamed across every major outlet, Ken Yaman's emotional confession. A love that never died? Photos of him leaving the studio flooded social media, his face half hidden under sunglasses, yet the sadness was unmistakable. Italy, Turkey, and even fans abroad couldn't stop talking about it. But while the world turned his words into gossip, for Can, it was never about spectacle. It was something much deeper, something that had been burning inside him for too long. He woke up early, unable to shake off the ache in his chest. His manager called, telling him to ignore the chaos online. Just let it fade, the man advised. The media will move on to the next scandal soon enough. But Can only replied quietly, this wasn't for them. He hung up, walked to the window, and looked out at the Roman skyline. It was for her, he whispered. Meanwhile in Istanbul, Demet couldn't escape the noise either. Paparazzi camped outside her home, shouting her name as she tried to drive away. Reporters asked if she would respond, if she still loved him, if there was any chance of reconciliation. She stayed silent, eyes hidden behind large black glasses, but inside her heart, every word they shouted struck a nerve. That evening, she met with her closest friend, who didn't hesitate to confront her. You still love him, don't you? Demet didn't answer. She just smiled faintly, the kind of smile that hides pain. Some people, she said softly, you never stop loving. You just learn to live without them. Her friend looked at her in disbelief. But maybe you don't have to live without him anymore, she insisted. He finally said what you've been waiting to hear all these years. Demet turned her gaze away. Sometimes the words come too late. Yet as she spoke, she knew deep down that nothing about his confession felt too late. It felt inevitable, as if fate had waited for the right moment to remind them both that unfinished stories never truly end. Back in Rome, Ken was restless. He scrolled through messages from friends, journalists, and even strangers thanking him for his honesty. But none of it mattered. Only one message mattered, the one that never arrived. He opened his phone again, fingers trembling over Demet's name. His heart raced. Then, for the first time in years, he typed a message, if you saw it, you know I meant every word. He hesitated before pressing send. The fear was real, fear of being ignored, misunderstood, or rejected. But the need to reach her was stronger. He took a deep breath and hit send. The message traveled across miles, across years of silence, landing softly on her phone as she sat alone in her living room. Her screen lit up, and when she saw his name, her heart skipped a beat. She stared at the words, tears filling her eyes. It wasn't a grand speech. It wasn't dramatic. It was simple, raw, and true. She typed a reply, erased it, typed again, then stopped. The world outside roared with noise, but inside that room, there was only silence. The kind of silence that feels like destiny holding its breath. Finally, she wrote one sentence, I did see it, Can, and I felt every word. Her finger hovered above the send button, trembling with both fear and hope. For a long time, she didn't move. And when she finally pressed send, something shifted in the air, a quiet spark, the rebirth of something that had never truly died. When Ken saw the notification on his phone, his breath caught. He hesitated for a second before unlocking it, afraid of disappointment, but there it was. Her name. Her message. I did see it, Ken, and I felt every word. For a moment, the world around him disappeared. The noise, the lights, the chaos, all gone. There was only that single line, and the sound of his heart pounding like it hadn't in years. He read it again and again, each time feeling something heavy lift from his chest. After years of silence, she had finally broken it. Not with bitterness, not with indifference, but with emotion. He leaned back in his chair, eyes closed, whispering her name as if afraid it would vanish if he said it too loud. Demet, across the sea, in Istanbul, Demet sat on the floor by her window, still holding the phone in her hand. She didn't expect him to answer. She didn't need him to. For the first time, her heart felt calm, not because everything was fixed, but because truth had finally been spoken. She remembered that night on set years ago when he had walked her to her car after filming. It was late, the city asleep, and he had said softly, "Promise me something, that no matter what happens, you won't forget what we had." She had laughed it off back then, not realizing how much those words would one day mean. Now, as she stared into the night, she realized she had never broken that promise. Not once. Hours passed. Ken didn't reply. Instead, he packed a small bag, threw on his jacket, and left the house. His assistant called after him, "Where are you going?" He didn't answer. He just whispered to himself, "It's time." A flight to Istanbul was leaving in 2 hours, and for the first time in a long time, he didn't think, he just followed his heart. When the plane landed, the sky was gray, soft rain falling over the city that had once witnessed their beginning. He didn't tell anyone he was coming. He didn't want cameras, noise, or chaos. He just wanted her. Meanwhile, Demet sat by the same sea she had posted on her story days before. She wore a simple coat, her hair tied back, eyes fixed on the horizon. The air smelled like the past, the kind that both hurts and heals. She heard footsteps behind her and froze. Slowly, she turned. There he was. No cameras, no lights. Just him, the man she once loved, the man she never stopped loving. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The silence said everything words couldn't. Then Ken stepped closer, his voice low, trembling. "You came here before, when you wanted peace." She nodded, barely breathing. "And you?" "I came here to find what I lost." The wind blew softly, carrying away everything that had stood between them, the pride, the anger, the fear. He looked into her eyes, and time seemed to stop. "Demet," he whispered, "I don't know if we can fix everything. But I know one thing, my life never felt complete without you." Her eyes filled with tears. She didn't move, didn't speak, she just reached out and took his hand. And in that small, fragile gesture, everything they had lost began to return. For minutes, they stood in silence, listening to the sound of the waves crashing against the shore, the same waves that had once watched them fall in love. Later, as the sun began to rise, someone nearby took a distant photo, 2 silhouettes standing close, hands intertwined. Within hours, the picture went viral. "Are Ken and Demet back together?" the headline screamed. But for once, neither of them cared. Because for them, it wasn't about fame or fans or forgiveness. It was about a promise kept, a love rediscovered, and 2 souls that had finally found their missing piece. And as Ken whispered one last time, "You're the missing piece of my soul," Demet smiled through her tears. "Then maybe," she said softly, "we were never really apart." The waves crashed again, a new beginning written in the same sea that had seen their ending. The end.